presentation that we just heard. I'm still in awe about what I just heard because I was not familiar with Marcus Bullock, but I'm gonna definitely find out more about him. Again, my name is Kate Colson. I'm Commissioner of the 400 Years of African American History Commission, Public Law 115-102. And also a member of the Faith and Justice Committee. It is my honor to introduce this morning's special panel. In the last 50 years, the number of incarcerated women have increased by 525%. Today, women make up nearly 19% of all adults involved in criminal justice system, and the Black women are 1.5 times more likely to be in prison than their white counterparts. And just like men, approximately 95% of women incarcerated will return home. This next panel is a fabulous group of women, all of whom have returned home from incarceration. Their lives are examples of triumph, resilience, strength, courage, and love. It is important that in these conversations on the impact of mass incarceration, we remember its growing impact on women in our society. We must recognize that 60% of women in state prisons across the country are mothers of school-aged children. That's hundreds and thousands of children who must go home every day unaccompanied by their mother, without a hug from their mom, without a cheerleader in their corner. Women are absent from their communities at a time when they and their voices are needed the most. These next panelists will share how they overcame the barriers to connecting with their children and loved ones. They will share how they maintain hope, the programs, the services, and the people that made a difference in their lives, contributing to their successful transition to return home. These women ultimately are stronger than anything life has thrown at them. And I am pleased to have them here with us today and share their stories. Thank you, and be prepared to hear some exciting stories.
Please welcome to the stage our moderator for the panel, Dr. Kedesti Youssef, Associate Professor of Criminal Justice and Director of the Center for Law and Justice at Bethune-Cookman University. Joining her, Monica Cooper, who leads the Diversity and Reentry Division at the Baltimore City State's Attorney Office. She is the director of the Maryland Justice Project, and her most recent endeavor is the founder of Soul Energy, a green solutions company established to bring returning citizens into the green economy through workforce development. Joining her, Diana Hoskins, President and CEO, Justice Leadership. Dr. Rose Parker, founder, Saving Our Women International, and Development Manager for the, no, sorry about that, I'm sorry. Dr. Ms. Malika Kidd, Program Director, Workforce Development for Lutheran Metropolitan Ministry, and Kemba Smith Pradia, author, producer, and founder of the Kemba Smith Foundation. And finally, Jesse Mabry, Development Manager for the National Alliance of the, Development Manager for the National Incarceration Association and an ambassador for We Represent Justice.
started. Brother Marcus. Thank you. Thank you for feeding us this morning. Thank you for inspiring us. Just thank you for everything. Please, thank you. Thank you. Peace and blessings, beautiful people. As mentioned, I'm Dr. Kiss Youssef. I also serve as the National Coordinator for the 400 Years of African American History I Care for My Life project. And with me today, I have a beautiful panel of esteemed women. I want to welcome you again to the 4th Annual National Returning Citizens Conference. I am honored and humbled to serve as this special session of women as the moderator. And we're going to speak to the unique challenges that women face returning back home, as well as the ways in which they persevere and the strengths in which they've acquired along the way. And so we're going to talk about how women are disproportionately impacted as it relates to experiences of trauma, healthcare, motherhood, and the ways in which women are uniquely affected by our criminal justice and juvenile justice systems. So without further ado, I'm going to ask the panel, I know that some of the bios got a little bit botched a little bit, so I want you all to make sure you take a moment to just state your name, the organizations you represent, and in the context of your introduction, I want you to share how your personal journey has shaped your perspective on issues of social justice and your desire to pursue greater equity within your organizations for women.
Hello? Okay. This lady's on?
Yes.
My name is Monica Hoover. I'm the Executive Director of the Maryland Justice Project. And I'm a little bit anxious today. I'm trying to calm my spirit. Amen. I ask that God give the really words that can impact our lives. So I'm going to take my time and rely on my Lord and Savior. So it's been a long journey. And if you had about 5 days, I could tell you all about it. But I think I got about 5 minutes. But I'm originally from West Baltimore, Sandtown, West Baltimore. And I grew up in those, people in the house. But I grew up in some of those socioeconomically challenged spaces that we currently see young teenage girls growing up in now. Having family members that have, substance abuse issues, parents, uncles, aunties, and being a young girl and trying to navigate that space is really difficult. The chances of me ending up in prison are much greater than somebody who grew up in a different kind of space. So I ended up at the Maryland Correctional Institution for Women, 20-year sentence. And prior to that, going into prison, even though my parents had their issues, they were good black folks, man. They were good people. And they gave me some intangible things that some people may not have. Courage, strength, understanding of who I am. When you know who you are, it doesn't matter where you are. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was in that space. Yeah. So I knew who I was before I went in there. And I knew I wasn't in that system by myself. I knew that God had me. So as a lover of justice, that follows you wherever you go. And it has to start somewhere. It started with my parents. It started with my father. I mean, anything that he could get his hands on, he would read it. One day he's sitting down and he told me a story about Sigmund Freud and operational conditioning and stuff like that. And I looked at him and said, come on, Dad, I'm 10. I just came for some snowball money. I went around his house because he worked at Bethlehem Steel Sparrows Point, and Tuesday was their payday. So I always showed up at my dad's house asking for some cash. But he would always sit me down and explain to me about the conditions of black folks in this country since I was old enough to remember. So when I did get out of that pickle I found myself in, I went to the University of Baltimore, and I graduated from there with a bachelor's degree, but I had a leg up on many of my peers because what those people talked about, Jawanza Kunjufu already told me. That's right. What those people talked about, Francis Cress Wells had already told me. And I knew that as a baby, as long as I can remember, I knew that. So I kind of had an understanding of what was being taught in those spaces. And as a result, I had like this really great GPA, and I got a Presidential Wilson Scholarship. And when I got to the University of Baltimore, The lady looked at me, she says, I see you have a Presidential Wilson Scholarship. And I looked at her, and no harm. I said, yes, white woman, I do. But I just looked at her because she almost looked at me as if to say, like, I can't believe you have this scholarship. It was a scholarship that I was a distinguished honor my entire career in school. But anyway, getting back to the question at hand, being a lover of justice to me is something that you were born with, is in you. Being a servant leader, you can't teach people that. That fire gotta be in you, period. Because it takes sacrifice, financially, your sleep. You're willing to deprive yourself of sleep and everything else for the mission. And what, I don't want to get lost in is if I find myself in a corporate space, I don't want to forget about the people in Murphy Homes. Because we do. The mission has always been the same for the African American in this country for 400 years. And we are missing the mark. I'm not going to be that one. I don't care what you're giving me. I don't care if it came from whoever foundation it is. There is a consistent mission that we have to stay on. We need allies. And when our allies are in that space, they need to understand the mission. We don't code switch. Y'all get your people.
Yeah, thank you. That was an introduction.
Right, go. Let it go. But anywho, I could go on and on for days about who I am. I don't pass it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Deanna Hoskins, President and CEO of Just Leadership USA, and I'm very intentional about the President and CEO because for so long Black women have only been seen as the maid and the nanny. And when I walk into corporate spaces, the President and CEO, everybody don't get access to. So in this space of change, when I go and talk to individuals around funding, I want to meet with the President and CEO. If I can't meet with your President and CEO, you can't meet with our President and CEO. I have a Vice President. And what I realize is, as a Black woman, I have to demand my respect. And I have to be willing to sometimes give money back. And I'll pass $2 million checks back across the table. Because you won't treat me a certain kind of way just because, one, I'm formerly incarcerated, or two, I'm running a national organization that was founded by and operated by formerly incarcerated, who understands that those closest to the problem are closest to the solution, but furthest for resource and power to do anything about it, and I'm here to and I used to struggle, because I think in the Black community we tell each other sometimes when we talk about our accolades, we're conceited in different things. But no, I had to realize where I came from. I was the first formerly incarcerated individual hired into the Obama administration as senior policy advisor. I ran the federal government's corrections and reentry. I didn't have to, but that was really too hard work because prior to that, being convicted based on drug addiction of a felony theft out of my hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio, leaving because it's a conservative Midwest, knowing that the only thing I could do was be a case manager in Ohio, to go to Indiana, get some skills, and to come back and return to the county I was convicted of as the highest ranking African American woman to run the Institute of Reentry program to where my judge became a colleague, right? Where my probation officer became a colleague. And when my only dream was to be a case manager at the correctional facility where I served time, and I now sit on the board of that correctional facility. So we have to actually realize, as Martha said, we have a superpower. And what I utilize is, you can sit in a room, you can write a paper, you can write policy on what you think our lives need to do, but you don't have my experience, which is my expertise, that you learned in a book.
Yeah.
My expertise, because see, let's be honest, the 93 crime bill was a good policy for a solution that they thought because they didn't live in the hood and didn't realize how it was going to impact Black communities. So somebody has to sit at the table, so you'll always hear me say, Shirley Chisholm said they don't give you a seat at the table in the old chair. I said they don't give you a seat at the table, go build your own and get them a good body. So we started to build our own around a national program, and I say that to say, it goes back to what she said. Intentionality, what Marcus said. I'm intentional in how I approach this work. Because I'm going to be honest with you. We could pass all the legislation in the world. Legislation will never free black people because half of it was built to oppress us. So if you just give me my constitutional rights, I don't need a clean slate, because for real, a background check ain't supposed to report nothing over 7 years anyway. That's an adverse action, but we don't know how to fight for our rights. Right? The 8th Amendment said there should not be excessive bail, so why are we fighting for bail reform when it's in the Constitution? And the first words of the Constitution is, we the people. It don't say we the people except those interacting with the criminal justice system. So the 13th Amendment, in this slavery bill, we put a loop clause in the exception clause. The 14th Amendment, and I'm gonna close with this. How this country operates is the 13th Amendment. The 14th Amendment actually says due process should be done to everyone, but there's also a section 3 that says any person convicted of a crime or accused of a crime of insurrection should not hold public office. But we ain't holding it to a current person running for president today. But we'll use the 14th Amendment clause to overturn Roe versus Wade for a certain population. So I'm gonna challenge everybody in this room, what y'all really fighting for? Because all I'm fighting for is my constitutional rights, and we won't need all these other things that are continuing to oppress us.
Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm Dr. Rose Parker, president and founder of Saving Our Women International, administrator of the Next Dimension University, and there's a lot of other stuff that, we do, that I do, that I can't even think of right now. So I'm gonna just stay right here with this and this parameters. And so I wanted to say that I was arrested in 1986 in a domestic violence case, and I was pregnant. In the year 2000, I became the first woman to be released under Gray Davis administration. First black, white, or person, period. My case changed laws regarding domestic violence in 1992. Prior to that, if you were arrested, if somebody tried to kill you, I was in my own house, pregnant, and I was held hostage 4 days. My abuser came in, and when my brother came to rescue me, I grabbed a gun and shot and both of them, but won't do my brother kill him. And I'm pregnant, and they put me in prison for 27 years to life. Like you, I believe every day I was going home, I kept mailing my stuff out. They want me to see a psychiatrist, because I kept thinking I'm going home. And I had life. And then in 1998, Bishop Davis came in there, doing the prison thing. You know how you satellite in prison and everything? And I looked on the stage, and it was Jackie McCullough. And I said, oh, I'm getting ready to go speak at the Women That Are Loose. And they said, you say going home, you got life, then you go speak to the Women That Are Loose. Okay. People that's free can't go speak to the Women That Are Loose. But okay. But anyway, in 2003, when they was uploaded back into my same prison, I walked out there with Juanita Divine and all the different people speaking at Women That Are Loose. I believe God. We're all sitting here with different stories, different accomplishments, different missions, and we all have different parts. I listen to different people. I want their story. I want what you did. I want what you did. But then I want what you did. But then I want what you did. But I gotta stay in my part of the place and do what God called me to do. Because that way I can do that successfully. It's easy for me to be me. I started listening to your story, and I told her I want a job for you. Why can't you? I got a job for me. I'm hired, looking for me a job, my own self. God hired me, And then I want what you're doing. Then I want Gimble. And then it gets confusing. So I just gotta stay doing me. I have a book called Beat Up, Beat Down, and Still Standing, the Rose Parker story. I said Rose Parker sat down for a cause that changed the world. And Rose Parker has stood up for one. Now, I say that because you know, we have to call things that be not as though they were. One thing that I do when I was in prison is the girls laughed at me, they didn't like me, you know, and all I did was help people. You know how you help people and then they just don't like you, but, you know, and you just have to live with being a person. And you kind of be sad, because, you know, you like ostracized. But I have to believe you're on a mission. But guess what? They all started sending their stuff out. They was going on. Because after I got out, nobody getting out of prison. Nobody else got out of prison. But one of the things I do to help prisoners transition is I have my own support group. And I try to help women, people adjust, because people live lives coming out of prison and they get in these relationships. Do you know that even my own husband, the apostle, when I was married, want to call my parole officer on me? But I did get a pardon from Governor Schwarzenegger. Now they're rushing me. I'm just being upfront. But I got pardoned by Governor Schwarzenegger when he said he wasn't going to give me one. And so I have a book out there, and I'm on Amazon Prime. You can watch Women Behind Bars or ID channel. You can watch Over My Dead Body. And thank you for letting me share.
Thank you.
I'm Malika Kidd. I am the Program Director for Workforce Development at the Metropolitan Ministry in Cleveland, Ohio. It's a social justice organization that's been around for 55 years. Started from the uprising in Cleveland. And I am also a returned citizen. I noticed that the women that I work with in this culinary arts program, when they're coming home, they're the main breadwinner, and they needed to get housing. And I know how difficult housing was for me. And I also know that most women that are incarcerated, especially Black women, are there because of or for a man. And at 16 years old, I thought I was in love with this man. I would follow him to the ends of the earth because I just knew it was love. And at 26, I followed him right into a prison sentence, 14 years for drug trafficking, under the mandatory minimum sentencing guideline. And when I came home, it was difficult. I found a job, but it was difficult to get housing. And when it was by the grace of God that I was paying all these fees to get an apartment, and they kept denying me. And by the grace of God, another apartment complex allowed me to have, got me into this apartment. And when I got married, my husband also had a drug trafficking charge, not the one I went to jail with. And I tried to put him on a lease, and they told me not only could he not be on a lease, but he couldn't even visit. And I knew right then I had to find a way to help other people get housing. We were actually blessed to be able to, a family friend of his gave us a condo that they had, but it had back taxes, and he fixed it up. We made a payment plans to get the house, we fixed it up, and we homeowners. It's easier to get a home than it is to get. And so these women, they got a job before they even come out. They're working, they have money saved while they're working at high-end restaurants in Cleveland, but they don't have a place to go with their children. Transitional housing won't take your child with you. And so I work with our housing and shelter department to try to find a way, how can we help them get housing? And we became master lease owners for the housing to get them in housing, and we would take charge of that lease and be able to help them get that house. And if the landlord see how well they're doing, they'll take over that lease for them. We were able to get funding, flex funding, for us to be able to pay for that housing for the first class security month, for them to be able to get in housing. I'll help find funding for that as well. And I tried to, as hard as it was for me, I knew how hard it would be for them, and that's why I work even harder for those coming behind me.
Can you hear me? Is the mic working? I have it, like the testing 1, 2. I don't always get the mic that's not working. I'm gonna be real conscientious of the fact that I spoke last night and be real succinct. You all saw some of you all didn't see the movie. I was sentenced to 24.5 years as a first-time nonviolent drug offender. And it took President Clinton to release me. And when I was released in December 2000, there was no community. And basically, the lawyers that helped free me basically told me the government wasn't happy that I got my sentence commuted, and I needed to keep my mouth shut and just figure out, do my new life. But I knew that there were a lot of people that rallied behind me, organizations, people, and it brought me hope. You brought me right back to mail call, Marcus, because I kind of felt guilty just because my face was on a magazine, I got these binfuls of mail, and there were women that would look at me, and I wanted that for them too. But when I came out, there was no community, so I'm grateful to Deanna, because I also was part of Just Leadership 2018 cohort. Am I saying it right? 2018 cohort, and that's where I met Marcus. And basically, it helped me understand and be more intentional. And I'm not gonna sit here in front, even still today, I battle some of those thoughts that you have, because you see everybody doing a bunch of different things, but then I have to recenter myself and understand everybody has their own lane, and there's plenty of work out here for us to do. And so, I'm starting to be more intentional, and I thank Deanna and Just Leadership because it helped direct me in my new position of having a seat at the table and being on the parole board, because before, I was doing everybody else's agenda and focused on first-time nonviolent drug offender or mandatory minimum sentences. But when I went to Just Leadership and I heard, people that did carjacking, people that did sexual offenses, people that committed murder, it helped me understanding those mitigating circumstances and just how powerful they can be as credible messengers in leading this work and being in these spaces where we are the solution. We can be a part of the solutions and solving the problems. And so I'm honored to be on here with Deanna and these other powerful women, but it was in that position where there's so much work to do. So in this movie, it's not, again, about me, and I shared this last night, it's about humanizing stories. And so through the 400 Years African American History Commission, we will start next week. I'll be going to the Ohio Reformatory Prison for Women. We'll go to FCI Carswell, FCI Coleman. I'm gonna make sure I have a document that people can see, and I know other organizations do this, where people can see us formerly incarcerated people doing this work so they can have hope. But that's what it's all about. And so my work, and I'm not gonna be here on this panel and not talk about the work that we're doing, because basically with us going to these different HBCUs and a few PWIs, and Dr. Youssef leads research and talking about students' fear with law enforcement and interactions, and bringing in law enforcement and making sure to have trainings with them so they can understand the community's fear, but they can also talk about their fear, because in being on the parole board, I understood some of that fear too, because seeing some of those interactions that law enforcement deal with and the violence, I was traumatized reading some of the things that happened, but yet still, people have to do the deep dives and understand that it's been decades and people have taken programs and they're no longer that same person. And so that's why I'm here, and in us doing this work, basically there's students that want to go into this criminal justice field, and I want them as a facilitator to hear my story so that they will go in being a part of the solution, because they will have a clearer picture of our stories and we can help change the narrative. I'm grateful also, Jesse, we meet for the first time, but there's a social impact campaign along with the movie, but she's representative of Just Leaders, represent justice, and I'm just gonna be quiet and let you do it.